Today I wanted to respond to the responses from Christians about contemporary Christian music. However, I'm pulled to respond to another video by EWTN on the Catholic Church, aka pedophile ring, and their good friend Bill Donahue, who is pushing the same bullshit that gays are the reason to why pedophiles exist in the Catholic Church. When are they going to realize that homosexuality and pedophilia are not the same thing?
It's you and I.
It's catchy. Joining me now with his thoughts on the media coverage of the abuse crisis and some other stories of the week is the president of the Catholic League, Dr. Bill Donahue, who joins us from Manhattan. Bill, thanks for being here. Give me your overall critique of this moment, post-McCarrick, post-grand jury report. People are madder than hell, Bill. Your reaction?
Well, I understand why people are livid. They need to be. Otherwise, you're not going to get the kind of reforms that we do need. On the other hand, the twin scandals of the summer of 18, which we will remember for a long time, have to be put in perspective. We're talking about old cases. What McCarrick allegedly did was in the 1980s, most of it. The Pennsylvania grand jury report, the vast majority of the cases before 1990, they go back to World War II. And in every case, just about every case, they never substantiated anything. They never gave a priest an opportunity who was accused to rebut anything. And keep in mind, people, all the priests, and not all of them were priests, by the way. Some were seminarians, some were brothers, some were deacons. But of the priests, they're all either dead or they have been laicized. They are no longer in ministry. So keep in perspective, this is not going on in 2018. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how old the cases are. The fact is that the Catholic Church perpetually allows these behaviors to happen, then blames the pedophilic problems that they could have reduced if they just changed their belief system on the LGBT community. Lastly, Bill, how do you know that this behavior is not going on in 2018 when it's been going on for centuries? That is not to mention the millions of people that the Catholic Church had killed over the last 2 millennia because they didn't believe in what the Catholic Church believes in. And the Vatican hasn't said that they are sorry for murdering these people.
Do you buy the notion, Bill, and we discussed this with Bishop Morlino earlier, that clericalism is the cause of this crisis? The Pope, Cardinal Tobin, others have mentioned clericalism as the root cause.
You've got two problems here. You've got the enabling bishops, not all of them, just a few, and you've got the predator priest. In the case of the enabling bishop, one could argue that clericalism, a kind of a sense that we know better attitude, certainly played a role. In the case of the molesting priest, almost all of them were homosexuals.
Let's hear that again.
All of them were homosexuals.
All of them were homosexuals.
Yeah, he is basically trying to say that, oh, it's the LGBT priest that are molesting children, and that the bishops are not strictly enforcing the same doctrine that may be causing some of the pedophiles to exist. Basically, it's just a case that they know it's the doctrine and they don't care, and they want children to get raped. If they didn't want children to get raped, they would get rid of the doctrine itself first. Then they would let the legal authorities take over and control those people who are pedophiles themselves, and then kick them out.
So you've got to look at it that way. But one thing we have to be very careful about, Pope Francis on August the 20th came out with a wonderful letter, and he warned about clericalism. He included the laity, thank you, the laity. Be very, very careful of some of these lay men and women who now are riding their high horse that they're going to resolve all the problems. They come to the table with their hands clean. Remember, Jesus warned us about the purist, okay? Now, we are not a sinless church, and I'm not excusing anyone. I'm simply saying we live in a time of hyperventilation, where everything is overheated. And yes, we have to get the guilty.
He's going after lay people. Well, I should say this. Priests, bishops, and the Pope are lay people to everything, including the Bible, as well as about every single Christian that is out there, including Bill himself.
But we must protect the innocent. There are too many priests and bishops who I'm afraid are going to get sundered because someone's going to drop a dime and they're going to say, well, something happened to me. He groped me in 1965 or something. We must protect the rights of the priests and the bishops as well as go after the bad guys.
You know, Bill,
Well, it seems here that Bill is defending pedophiles. Something you should know. Priests, bishops, and the Pope are not an authority over anybody but the people who give them authority.
been covering in the secular realm. You've got actors, you've got actresses, you've got directors charged with sexual malfeasance that turned out to be untrue. It was a scorned lover or it was a bad relationship. This same thing at times happens in the church. But also, Bill, you have to say, there does seem to be a new awareness of this, and the outrage is real because the fallout is real. There are victims out there, and that's why I think things have gotten so overheated. Everybody's heart can go out to these victims, and you really do feel you want justice for them. And if there are malefactors out there today, and there are, they should be brought to justice and they should be removed if they're still in office. Now, you issued a detailed response to the Pennsylvania grand jury report earlier this month. You've taken some heat over it. Some see it as a defense of the indefensible, Bill. Is now the appropriate time, given...
This article represents the nature and scope of child sex abuse by Catholic priests from 1950 to 2002. 97% of diocesans responding, 99% of diocesan priests, and 64% of religious communities responding, 83% of priests, responded to the request for the data. Findings show that 4,392 priests, 4%, had allegations of abuse. 10,667 victims made allegations, and the church paid, at the time the surveys were completed, $572.5 million in legal and treatment fees as comparison to the victims' composition to the victims. Furthermore, 1.3 billion to date. This is from the Criminal Justice and Behavior. I'm sorry, but when your church has to pay out $500 million to people who, of course, been sexually abused, then yeah, that does sound fake. No, really, that is real. That's not fake.
That feeling that people are going through right now, and the hurt and the raw emotions, is now the right time to talk about what might be wrong with this grand jury report.
There's no better time than now. Because if I did that next month, nobody's going to care. I had to get out right away, to get out in front of it. I don't want falsehoods out there. People are saying this is going on today. Let me tell you something. The reforms issued by the bishops in 2002 are working. Let me give you two quick examples. Everybody knows that Cardinal McCarrick, he's no longer a cardinal. All these allegations against him, there's a lot of evidence there. Okay, let's assume he is guilty, all right? How do we know he's guilty? Do people realize this because Cardinal Dolan turned him in? Do they realize that? They had these strictures in place, the bishops since 2002. Cardinal Dolan has his own independent reconciliation and compensation program. Someone came forward, they investigated, they found it out. Now, that's not too easy for one sitting cardinal to talk to another cardinal and say, listen, we got enough evidence in here, and we've got to go to the authorities about this. The other case is in the Diocese of Allentown, Pennsylvania, just this week. A priest allegedly was involved in groping and doing some other things to a 17-year-old girl. Now, the media say, well, the authorities got a hold of him. Wait a minute. The bishop there in Allentown found out about this in early June. He contacted the authorities.
They are trying to appeal to the idea that somebody had done something years ago and wasn't punished for it, therefore they shouldn't be punished for it today, and that any evidence that exists today of their negligence, no matter how empirical it is fake. Well, I can say this: the only way the means will ever justify is if the Vatican ceases to exist. All in all, I'm done with dealing with EWTN. You can, of course, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And for this video, the link is in the description. Thank you.